The mother died years before Ted tells the story. This theory claims Ted isn't just reminiscing, he's processing grief through storytelling. Notice how the entire series focuses on meeting the mother, but she appears only in the final season. Ted's kids look bored and uncomfortable throughout, like they've heard this before many times. The story takes 9 years to tell for a simple meeting because Ted's stalling, avoiding the painful ending. He embellishes details, romanticizes failures, and makes himself look worse than he probably was. The ending reveals Tracy's been dead for 6 years, meaning Ted's been telling this story to cope. Every long-winded tangent about Barney or Marshall is Ted delaying the inevitable truth. The kids finally tell him to move on because they've watched him grieve through stories. The theory reframes the entire show as a widower clinging to the past before he can face the future. Barney is the real protagonist. This theory argues the show isn't Ted's story. It's actually about Barney's transformation. Ted starts as an architect who wants love and ends the same way 9 years later. Barney begins as a shallow womanizer and evolves into a husband and father. His character arc has the most growth, from emotionally damaged to emotionally available. He's the one who changes careers, finds purpose, confronts his abandonment issues with his father, and learns what real love means. Ted just cycles through the same relationship patterns, chasing Robin, making grand gestures, and failing. Meanwhile, Barney's the one who earns his happy ending through genuine transformation, not just waiting. The playbook, his suits, and legendary catchphrases are all armor hiding a scared kid. When he finally drops it for Robin and his daughter, that's real character development. The theory suggests Ted's just the narrator, but Barney's journey is what we actually watch. The pineapple incident wasn't just alcohol. This theory claims Ted didn't just get drunk that night. Someone slipped him something at the bar. His blackout is too complete, too bizarre. He wakes up with a pineapple, no memory, and a girl he doesn't remember meeting. Normal drinking doesn't cause that level of amnesia. Trudy, the woman in his bed, acts suspicious and leaves quickly without explanation. Ted's friends find the whole thing hilarious but never question why he can't remember anything. The pineapple itself was never explained for years, suggesting something darker happened that night. Some fans believe Carl the bartender knows more, but stays quiet to protect someone. Ted's behavior that night, stumbling onto Barney's roof, calling Robin repeatedly, shows impaired judgment beyond typical intoxication. The theory argues the gang brushed off a serious incident as just another funny Ted story, when something more sinister actually occurred. Robin Sparkles is a trauma response. This theory says Robin's teen pop star past isn't just embarrassing, it's unprocessed trauma. She was sexualized as a minor, pushed into an image, and forced to perform for adult audiences in revealing outfits. Her extreme shame about that period suggests deeper pain. Robin became hypermasculine and career-focused to distance herself from that vulnerable girl. She refuses commitment, avoids feelings, and runs from anything that makes her soft. The Robin Sparkles persona represents everything she was forced to be: feminine, performative, powerless. Her Canadian past becomes a joke in the group, but Robin never truly laughs about it. The darker Robin Dagger's face shows she snapped, rebelling violently against the pop princess image. Her relationship struggles stem from never processing what happened during those formative years. The theory frames her emotional unavailability as a defense mechanism built during exploitation. Every time the gang watches her old videos for laughs, they're unknowingly mocking her worst memories. Marshall's dad knew he was dying. This theory argues Marvin Erickson saw it coming and spent his final months preparing Marshall. Rewatch his last appearance, and he's reflective, calm, telling Marshall he's proud and always believed in him. Those aren't casual comments, they're final words. He encourages Marshall to follow his dreams, stops pushing him toward corporate law, and gives him permission to be himself. The heart attack happens right after this conversation, as if Marvin made peace and let go. He settled his affairs, told his son what mattered, and ensured Marshall would be okay. The voicemail Marshall receives isn't random, it's deliberate. Marvin called to say he loved him one last time. The theory suggests his death wasn't sudden, but expected by him alone. He protected his family from the fear while quietly saying goodbye. Marshall's devastation hits harder, knowing his dad was preparing him all along without saying it directly. Ted is an unreliable narrator. This theory claims everything we see is filtered through Ted's biased, romanticized memory. He makes himself the hero, exaggerates Barney's awfulness, and paints Robin as more perfect than she was. Notice how stories change when other characters tell them. Barney's versions are wilder, Marshall's are kinder, and Lily's reveal Ted's selfishness. Ted admits to lying about details like the goat, proving he manipulates the truth. His descriptions of Victoria, Stella, and Zoe are suspiciously flawless until they leave him. Then, suddenly, their flaws appear in flashbacks, suggesting Ted's rewriting history. He claims to hate certain behaviors, but does them constantly. The theory argues we're not watching what happened. We're watching Ted's edited version, designed to justify ending up with Robin. Every character is a caricature shaped by his perspective. Marshall isn't that innocent. Barney isn't that evil. And Ted isn't that romantic. The real story is buried under 9 years of self-serving narration. The entire gang enables each other's worst behaviors. This theory says the friend group isn't supportive. They're toxic and codependent. Barney's misogyny goes unchallenged for years because everyone laughs instead of confronting him. Ted's obsession with Robin ruins multiple relationships, but his friends never seriously intervene. Marshall and Lily manipulate each other constantly, and the gang treats it as cute. Robin's emotional unavailability is accepted rather than addressed. They sabotage each other's growth because they need the group to stay the same. Lily breaks up Ted's relationships when they threaten the dynamic. Barney keeps Ted single, so he has a wingman. Marshall enables Lily's shopping addiction and manipulation. The gang mocks anyone who tries to change, like when they drove away Victoria and Dawn. They're not friends helping each other grow. They're people keeping each other stuck. The theory argues their loyalty is really fear of abandonment. They'd rather stay in dysfunction together than risk losing the group. Every intervention fails. Every problem gets laughed off, and no one truly changes until they leave McLaren's for good. Lily is a sociopath. This theory claims Lily's the most manipulative, selfish character, disguised as the caring mother figure. She breaks up Ted's relationships when they don't fit her vision of the group. She admits to sabotaging at least 5, possibly more. She leaves Marshall before the wedding for her own dreams, but never truly supports his. She racks up massive credit card debt and hides it, stealing Marshall's financial future. She manipulates situations constantly, like forcing Barney and Robin together or apart, depending on her mood. She steals things compulsively and shows no remorse. When confronted, she plays victim or uses her size to seem harmless. Lily's protective nature is actually control. She decides who belongs in the group and who gets cut out. Her loyalty is conditional, based on whether you serve her needs. She even fantasizes about lives without Marshall, suggesting she stays out of comfort, not love. The theory paints her as the true villain of the series, someone who destroys lives while hiding behind kindergarten teacher sweetness. Everyone fears her disapproval, which is how she maintains power over the group. Barney's perfect month was a mental breakdown. This theory argues that when Barney slept with 31 women in 31 days, he wasn't celebrating. He was spiraling. This happens right after Robin rejects him again. Instead of processing the pain, he throws himself into the most extreme version of his old self. It's not conquest, it's avoidance. He's proving to himself he doesn't need love, doesn't need Robin, doesn't need to change. But the footage shows him exhausted, going through motions, barely celebrating his achievement. His friends treat it as legendary, but Barney looks empty. He's running from vulnerability by burying himself in meaningless encounters. The month ends and nothing's better. He just has a number. Some fans believe this was his rock bottom, the moment before he finally admits the Playboy life isn't working anymore. The theory reframes the perfect month as Barney's most desperate, self-destructive act masked as an achievement. It's the last gasp of a dying persona before he's forced to face what he really wants. The slap bet represents Marshall's suppressed rage. This theory says Marshall isn't the gentle giant everyone thinks he is. He's deeply angry and uses the slap bet to unleash violence legally. He savors every slap, sometimes waiting years to maximize psychological torture. He doesn't just slap Barney, he terrifies him, stalks him, and enjoys watching him live in fear. This isn't playful, it's sadistic. Marshall's nice guy image hides someone who feels powerless in life, so he dominates where he can. He lost career battles with Lily, compromised his dreams, and swallowed his pride repeatedly. The slaps are his only outlet for control and aggression. Notice how he stretches the bet beyond its original terms, creating new rules to keep punishing Barney. The theory suggests Marshall resents his friends, his choices, and his life, but can't express it directly. So he channels everything into these brutal, humiliating slaps while everyone cheers him on. It's socially acceptable violence disguised as a running gag. Ted and Robin are toxic for each other. This theory argues their relationship isn't romantic. It's mutually destructive. They want different things, but keep gravitating together out of fear and obsession. Ted idealizes Robin as the one who got away, ignoring that she clearly told him she doesn't want marriage or kids. Robin uses Ted as her safety net whenever she's lonely or insecure. They sabotage each other's relationships and growth. Ted can't move on because he's fixated on changing changing Robin's mind. Robin can't commit to anyone else knowing Ted's always waiting. Their friends enable this cycle instead of forcing them to let go. Every time they get together, it ends the same way, but they never learn. The theory says the finale proves they're still toxic. When Ted purses her with the blue French horn again, nothing's changed. He's still the guy making grand gestures, and she's still the woman who doesn't want what he wants. They're addicted to the drama, not actually in love. The relationship is based on fantasy, timing, and unresolved obsession rather than genuine compatibility. Tracy was too perfect to be real. This theory claims the mother was idealized to justify Ted's 9-year story. Every trait she has perfectly matches Ted's desires, like she was designed in a lab. She loves architecture, knows his references, tolerates his quirks, and thinks he's amazing instantly. She has no significant flaws, no deal breakers, no moments of real conflict. Compare her to every other woman Ted dated, who all had major issues once the relationships got serious. Tracy's too understanding, too patient, too everything. The theory suggests Ted's memory of her is so filtered by grief that we never meet the real woman. He's made her into a saint, the perfect wife who validates his entire journey. This makes the ending even sadder, because Ted never processes who Tracy actually was, only who he needed her to be. Or darker, the theory proposes Tracy was always a narrative device, not a real person in Ted's story. She exists to give meaning to his failures and set up the Robin ending. Either way, we never truly know the mother. The gang peaked in their 20s and never recovered. This theory says the show is actually about people who refuse to grow up. They spend 9 years at the same bar, telling the same stories, reliving the same glory days. Marshall sells out his environmental dreams for corporate money. Lily stays in a job she's overqualified for because it's safe. Robin's career stalls, and she ends up alone and distant. Barney returns to empty conquests after his marriage fails. Ted takes 9 years to finish a story about meeting his wife, proving he's stuck in the past. They're all terrified of real adulthood, so they cling to their 20s at McLaren's. The booth, the drinks, the inside jokes become a prison disguised as nostalgia. The theory argues the show is a cautionary tale about people who peak early and spend the rest of their lives trying to recreate what's gone. By the end, they've all compromised, settled, or given up on their real dreams. The kids listening to Ted's story represents the next generation, watching the previous one refuse to move forward. The yellow umbrella is a symbol of Ted's denial. This theory claims the umbrella represents Ted's inability to let go of fate and control. He obsesses over signs, destiny, and the perfect story instead of living in reality. The umbrella appears throughout the series in moments Ted's forcing meaning onto random events. He believes everything happens for a reason because accepting chaos terrifies him. When he finally meets Tracy under the umbrella, it validates his worldview that suffering had purpose. But the theory argues this is Ted's greatest delusion. Life isn't a story with neat symbolism, and his obsession with the umbrella proves he values narrative over actual human connection. He's so focused on how he met the mother that he barely talks about their actual life together. The umbrella becomes more important than the woman holding it. After she dies, Ted tells the story to maintain the illusion that everything meant something. The yellow umbrella isn't fate. It's Ted's security blanket against meaninglessness. When he pursues Robin again, he abandons the umbrella entirely, exposing how hollow the symbol always was. If you enjoyed this breakdown, I'm going to be posting a lot more sitcom theories and deep dives. I'd really appreciate if you could subscribe because there are so many more shows with insane theories worth exploring. Thanks for watching.